My descent into mental illness was like a death. Everything stopped.
I was hospitalized probably over a dozen times.
There is no what if with mental illness. It's there with you the rest of your life.
We all feel the same way. It's like losing a child, but we don't lose them. They become just strangers to us. With Conrad, Wellspring was available, and I was determined that he would not slip into the streets. I mean, it wasn't a normal existence. We tried to make it as normal. We lived on a very normal street, But I can remember on that normal street, after Billy got ill, I didn't feel as comfortable there because people really kind of wanted me to move.
My son David developed a mental illness back in the late 70s. It was very difficult because he had been a great athlete, all-state football player at Trinity, and it was just hard to accept. And I was a little bit embarrassed, I have to admit. I kind of hid it for a lot of years. It kept getting worse and worse, and lots of jail time, lots of hospitals, lots of living on the streets. And I, one minute would feel very bad for him, and the next minute I would want to goose him into doing better.
Mental illness typically strikes in late adolescence, early adulthood, and cuts across all boundaries. It affects people who have lots of money and people who are very poor.
I was a U of L graduate, and my father died about that time. I was hospitalized a number of times.
Recovery from mental illness does not mean cure. Recovery means helping people find a meaningful life. And that's what Wellspring is all about, helping each person find meaning in their own life.
I get to share my experiences in recovery. It's really a fulfilling feeling.
I am a symbol of hope. Somebody can actually have a meaningful, fulfilling life beyond their mental illness. If I can do it, you can do it.
What recovery really means is redefining yourself in light of this illness. What are my goals now? And what do I want to achieve? And how am I going to get there? Wellspring can help with that.
In February of '05, when David got real psychotic, we tried to talk him into the hospital, and he just would not go. He said, I will not go. One day he said, I'll go to the CSU. So I called the people at Wellspring, and they said, it's a small place. It only has 8 beds, and at that time they were full, but we think there will be an opening in a day or two. So I told David, can you hang on? Well, the next day they called me and said, there's an opening. And I couldn't get a hold of David. And by that time he had caught a bus and gone to Nashville and jumped off the bridge. So if the CSU had been bigger, if there were more CSUs, my son might be alive today.
There are so many people out there that need this. Their families are struggling with something way beyond them. It's kind of like treating a cancer with an aspirin. You just can't do it. I just am so thankful for Wellspring. I think the last, 4.5 years of Conrad's life were probably the happiest since he'd been 15. And that's a lot of years to be out there from 15 to 39. And so when he passed away, I felt, I got him in what I think was the best place in Kentucky.
Housing is my passion for mental health volunteer work. And Wellspring happens to be the only organization in the Louisville area devoted to housing for the mentally ill.
I hope people realize that there's a good prognosis for people with mental illness, and there is a future for people, especially nowadays, with Wellspring. There is hope. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a